It was perhaps the most embarrassing loss in Michigan football history at Michigan Stadium, down 28-0. So if you are done with Jim Harbaugh as your coach at Michigan, go ahead and like the video. We've got a wonderful show coming up for you. It's our Sunday overreaction video, my 6 biggest takeaways from yesterday's embarrassing 49-11 loss to Wisconsin. It's the Michigan Football Report coming up right now. Welcome into the Michigan Football Report here on a Sunday. I'm your host, as always, James Yoder, and it's a great day for Michigan fans. There's nothing going bad with anything surrounding the program. You've got a Michigan man, Jim Harbaugh, as your head coach, and the future is bright. Heavy sarcasm, folks. Heavy sarcasm. It is our Overreaction Sunday show. I went raw dog, just me and my computer yesterday after the game. Late night, put a video out. Over 20,000 of you have watched that as of 3 o'clock here on Sunday. So, want to talk you through 6 takeaways I've got from the game yesterday. And towards the end of the show, I've got a really intriguing coaching candidate that I've thought about a lot about over the past day or so. So, let's get it rolling on today's show. Number 1 is Jim Harbaugh is setting records. As you can see there, bad records, okay? Harbaugh is setting some really bad records, and there's a ton of these out there, but these are probably the 3 most just mind-numbing tweets I saw out there during and after the game on Saturday last night. Wisconsin is up 28-0 at the half. This is Michigan's largest halftime deficit at home since Michigan Stadium opened. 1927. Well, that's not that long ago. Only 93 years, the worst halftime deficit. I'm like, no way that's true. I remember that Oregon game in 2007. Michigan had scored at that point. It wasn't as bad as 28-0. So not even Rich Rod, not even Brady Hoke. 28-0, worst halftime deficit they had. Got another one from Mark Burns. Says the last time Michigan football lost by at least 38 was in 2010 season under Rich Rodriguez. His final game, when frankly, why did they lose that game so bad? I think the score was about 52-14, they say, is because Rich Rod was dead man walking, and Dave Brandon just said, I'm not going to fire you to after the bowl game. Rich Rod was trying to get fired so he can interview for the Maryland job, and nobody gave a crap about that game, including the players, including the coaches. They were all gone the morning after it happened. And Harbaugh is at that level of loss. Last tweet I want to throw you up there. It is coming from Jason Starrett. Michigan now trails Wisconsin 35-3. This is in the third quarter. If the score holds, it would be Jim Harbaugh's 3rd loss by at least 28 points. Okay, let me just emphasize this last one. Michigan's 5 previous head coaches. This is going back to 1969 with Bo Schembechler. So we're talking about over 50 years. Bo, Lloyd Carr, Gary Moeller, Rich Rod, Brady Hoke, 51 years, etc. 1 loss combined by 28 points at home. This is now Jim Harbaugh's 3rd loss of 28 points at home. Let me say that one more time. Those 5 coaches, including Brady Hoke, including Rich Rod, 1 combined in 50-plus years since 1969. Jim Harbaugh has 3 of those losses by 28 or more, and that is just unsettling, to say the least. And one more thing before we kind of go on to the rest of the show. Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, 7 years combined as Michigan's coach, never were down 28-0 or more in a game ever. In a single game they coached. Jim Harbaugh has now done it back-to-back years against Wisconsin, down 28-0 in both of those games. So Michigan's going to go out to Piscataway, New Jersey on Saturday night. Big Ten Network ratings, baby. Michigan Rutgers. And the line is out. Michigan is a 2-score favorite. They are a 9-point favorite against Rutgers. 7:30, Big Ten Network. Over under 51.5. I mean, does Michigan score 10 points against anyone right now? I mean, you had to bring Cade McNamara. Joe Milton did nothing. He scored no points, right? So it's going to be pretty surprising to see them cover a 9-point spread. But I guess that's what the bookmakers think is going to even out the lines. I think people are going to come in heavy on Rutgers, especially early in the week. And if you want to get going on some of this action, if you think you know better Michigan football better than the bookmakers, better than other fans out there, go over and get started at BetUS, our sportsbook partner. Chatsports.com/GoBlue is the link to land on their sign-up and deposit page. Use that promo code GoBlue to make sure you get that 125% deposit bonus. They called me up this morning. They said, James, we feel so bad for you. We thought this would be a great season for Michigan. Let's take pity on your viewers again. I said, pity? My viewers need no such pity, but we'll take it. if you get going before Saturday night, before the Michigan-Rutgers game is over, and make a bet on the game. So it's a two-part process. Get going with BetUS, make your first deposit, make a bet in the game. You got to email goblueatchatsports.com. We will hook you up with a Jordan brand Michigan football jersey. You might be saying, I'm not going to wear that thing. I'd be embarrassed to wear it out in the streets. Give it to a kid or something like that. Give it to a buddy who kind of watches, I'm a Michigan fan, but he can't name a player. Use it as a free Christmas present. Get rich betting against Michigan and have a really nice Christmas present for your buddy at work who claims to be a Michigan fan, but you know as well as I do, he can't name two players. Whatever you want to do with it, it's a great deal. 125% deposit bonus, and you get a free Michigan football jersey. Make sure you email goblueatchatsports.com. We're fulfilling the jerseys, not BetUS. Next up, number 2 of 6. The Michigan players straight up quit on Jim Harbaugh. There were 2 instances, at least, that I saw that the players had quit. Number 1 was the 4th touchdown by Wisconsin in the middle of the end of the second quarter, where there was a tweet out there that I saw. I saw 2 really funny tweets. Number 1 was somebody tweeted the play where the Wisconsin running back walked into the end zone right through the Michigan defense. It looked like all the Michigan guys just kind of stood up and let him get pushed around. It was almost like, hey, I'm not going to hit you. You're not going to hit me. We know what's going to happen here. One tweet was, Michigan football is tanking for Trevor Lawrence. And the other one was something of that long. I think it's Michigan's tanking for a high draft pick, something along those lines. But I was like, they literally just walked it, let him score like Indiana did against Penn State a few weeks ago, where it's like, let's let him score so we could get the ball back and only be down 8, because if they just kneel it, they're going to run the clock out. No, that wasn't it at all. Michigan was already down 21. So did the Michigan players just be like, oh, man, F this. I'm done with this team. I'm quitting. They let him in. Go back and watch the touchdown that Michigan scored, that Wisconsin scored to go up 28-0 in the game. They quit. And there's a second play, and there's another play in the second half. The exact same thing. A guy kind of cut outside. There was 5 Michigan defenders and 1 blocker. Nobody made the tackle. I don't think anybody even got a hand on him until someone threw him to the ground when he's 4 yards into the end zone. I have no doubt from the time they ran out of the tunnel and kind of just jumped up and said, ooh, go blue on the banner, that this team had quit on Jim Harbaugh. And it was so obvious after every single play that happened that no one really wanted to be there. So I think they've quit on Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he has control of the team. They don't trust their coaches, and that's what it is. You guys are trusting me because we've had a record 2 months, and thank you so much for watching the show. Almost to the goal. Unlock some awesome YouTube features for the show. We need 136 more subscribers. We've got 1,000 in the past week or so. So thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, please subscribe. It is daily Michigan football videos with no fluff, and we'll talk about the subjects that the blog boys are too scared to talk about. Don Brown replacements, Jim Harbaugh replacements, benching some quarterbacks. So this is the show for you. Next up, what did they see in Joe Milton? And I'm not going to make this a racial thing, but I will say a analogy here. Whenever there's a Duke basketball player who is scrappy and jumps the thing, oh, he reminds me of Bobby Hurley, he reminds me of thing, and it's kind of like, why? Because he plays for Duke and because he's a 6-foot white guy? And I feel like the Michigan blog boys do the same thing with Joe Milton. What is the comparison to Cam Newton, other than their size and their physical appearance? You tell me one thing a reasonable person would look at Joe Milton and say, after seeing him 4 games, if these blog boys have so much connections and sources to charge you $10 a month that they're inside the fort and they've got sources close to it, right? That's what they always say with their crap articles that are always wildly wrong. What is the comparison to Cam Newton other than their size and the color of their skin? It's nothing, and frankly, I said he reminded me maybe of more Ben Roethlisberger, so I just think this whole narrative of Cam Newton was wildly inaccurate and inappropriate. I told you a month ago, leave Joe Milton alone. You're putting too much pressure on him. It's way too inflated of expectations. We put the video out. Scroll back about 15 videos. We put it out. Nobody else would. But I don't know what the coaching staff saw in Joe Milton. And these sources, they are a figment of the imaginations of the Rivals and Scout and WTKA bloggers. They don't know anything. They are crap. Their sources and their predictions are terrible. And I think we may be looking at a new quarterback coming up against Rutgers, because I think I've seen enough from Joe Milton to know he shouldn't be the quarterback. Want to know from you guys, why not give Cade McNamara a chance? Hell, Dylan McCaffrey was sitting in the stands yesterday at the Nebraska game against Penn State, sitting in the stands when he didn't have to lose a year of eligibility just to be on the sidelines of Michigan. So go ahead and type JM if you want Joe Milton to stay starting. Type CM if you want Cade McNamara to continue to start for this team. I'm going to pin this comment down below. Scroll down, and we will see what you guys think. Next up, number 4 of 6. Got 3 more takes here coming up. Going to talk about coaching candidates here in a second. Someone at Michigan's got to take a stand. Whether that's Jim Harbaugh, okay, whether it's the athletic director, whether it's the school president, take a stand and fire someone now. Because what are you waiting for, right? Someone has to. I always kind of feel like in organizations, somebody's got to get yelled at sometimes for everybody else to realize that somebody means business. And I think Jim Harbaugh's probably done enough yelling that I think he just needs to get rid of Don Brown, get rid of Josh Gattis if he wants to have any chance of saving this team. You always see these teams that come in and get a little interim coach bump. Ed Orgeron is a great example of that. I know the Texans they went 0-4-5 to start this year in the NFL. I think they've kind of had a little bit of a turnaround. They won a couple games or anything yet? I think they won a game or two, right? They won at least one. I think they have. Interim coach, so maybe interim coordinator, right? Who can take over for Don Brown? His defense is an absolute abomination of terribleness. It is so bad, the Michigan defense. I don't even know who's coaching this team. I don't know who's preparing this team, what their strategy is. It's ridiculous. Jim Harbaugh needs to walk into Schembechler Hall today or tomorrow and say, Don, I appreciate it. We're going to pay you out, but you are out of this building. Billy, you take over. You're calling the plays, just like they would in the movies, okay? I don't even know who Billy is. He's the closest guy Harbaugh sees. Billy coaching the plays, and Billy just steps up and says, all right, man-to-man coverage and all-out blitzes in every single play. It probably worked better than what's worked for Don Brown so far. So, speaking of Don Brown, maybe it's not him, maybe it's Gattis, but give me your one-word description. One-word description of Don Brown's defense. Go down in the comments. Let me hear. I just think it's disaster, right? What other word can you use? But if you guys want to get more creative than the word disaster, go down to the comments. Number 5, just that Jim Harbaugh cannot return, okay? I wish that Jim Harbaugh would have succeeded. It was one of the most glorious days of my life when Jim Harbaugh got the job, because I just thought they were going to make a crap hire. Michigan was going to just have another 4 or 5 years of another average coach like with Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, but they got Harbaugh. And it was really good for a few years, but it has really sucked for the last 2 and 3 of the last 4. And with that being said, he is now 1-3. He is, let's say, the 15th. He is 27 days away from being a lame duck coach, right? They'll have another game, their championship week game against the worst team in the Big Ten East or the Big Ten West, or the second worst team in the Big Ten West. But he is on a second to last year of his contract. In 28 days, he'll be in the last year of his contract as Michigan's coach. Which one of these scenarios makes sense to you, the viewer? Scenario 1, Jim Harbaugh goes 1-7 or 2-6 in the games on his schedule, and they give him a contract extension. Or number 2, they let him coach the next year of his contract without his last year's contract without a contract. Which one is more likely? I don't know if either one of them is more likely. So I think the only thing that kind of comes together is they say, Jim, we cannot extend you. You also know that you go into next year's season with no contract, you're not going to get anybody to commit to this team, and everyone's just going to know you're going after this year. So why don't we just come together? We're not going to pay you this $10 million buyout. We'll say something along the lines of spending time with family, right? Or for his health. You'll step away. We'll give you a nice cushy athletic department position as assistant director of yelling loud chants at the students. That'll be your new title, and we'll pay you $2 million for it next year instead of the $9 million you were getting. And then after the 2021 season, take any job you want. Or hell, take any job you want now. But, we'll just kind of have a mutual party. He cannot return, though, because you can't sign him a contract extension, and you can't have him as a lame duck coach because the recruiting will just crumble and fold. So that's my take on Jim Harbaugh. I got a great coaching candidate I want to talk about here in a second. Reminder, as we told you earlier in the show, we're under 140 subscribers away from that 10,000 mark. We're going to stick a key in YouTube, unlock magical features. I'll be able to start wearing a Jim Harbaugh emoji mask on my face during shows, maybe, but want to ask you guys to make sure to subscribe, youtube.com/Michigan TV. All right. I have got another candidate that I want to talk about. I didn't put it on my list on Friday. If you want, I'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the description. My 5 coaching candidates I think are ideal to replace Jim Harbaugh. But another one came across my desk last night, and I think it's a pretty good one. Mario Cristobal, Oregon's head coach. Why do I think he's a good, potential candidate for Michigan? I think there's a couple reasons. Number 1, he's still relatively young. He's only 50, so he's got the experience, but he's not an old-timer where he's going to start, looking like sleepy Jim Harbaugh out there on the sidelines. He's got a ton of experience. Miami, back in the heyday. Rutgers, Coach Luciano, Miami. But he was right there with Nick Saban for 4 years as his assistant head coach, and the last 3-4 years as Oregon's head coach has got them kind of right there in that 9 to 16 range as far as like always ranked right on the cusp of maybe making an effort in the playoffs, but not just being able to get over the hump. But when you look at his recruiting rankings, look at the players he's brought in at Oregon, and then look at people who are in the recruiting business say about him. I heard a podcast today. I'm not going to give them any credit because I'm going to take their information and give it to you. So no need to go listen to the original comments. Is that there's only 3 or 4 recruiters that in all of college football that can put together a recruiting game plan 365 days a year to compete with Ohio State. They said Nick Saban. They said Urban Meyer if he were to come back. They said Kirby Smart. They said Mario Cristobal. That's it. They focus on recruiting in a maniacal way, 15 hours a day, 365 days a year. They wear their staff out, whatever they do, but they get results. In Oregon, for the limited resources they have, I guess, historically and their location, and the fact that it's in the Pac-12 and no one even cared when there wasn't a Pac-12 season, I think he could be a really strong candidate. He's making half of what Harbaugh's making. And from what I heard today, too, is that he's looking for a school that gives him the resources to put in play what he learned under Nick Saban, which is just recruiting analysts out the window in private planes. And Michigan might be one of the few 6-8 schools in the country that can provide those type of resources. So keep an eye on Mario Cristobal. I think it's definitely one to keep your eye out for as things come to a close with Jim Harbaugh's tenure as Michigan's football coach. That's the show for today, folks. Hope you liked it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, one last chance to do it by hitting this button right here, Michigan Football Report on YouTube, youtube.com/Michigan TV. If you were awake last night, you might have saw our recap post-game video. If you weren't, it's right here. I've got my Michigan football coaching candidates video for you right here. Go Blue!